Hi, I'm Shaul. Today I'm going to discuss the concept of depth of field and how to simplify it. Depth of field, or the range of distances that will appear in good sharpness in the image, depends on 5 factors. First is the distance between the camera and the subject. Then it's the distance between the camera and the background. The third factor is focal length. The fourth factor is the f number used. And the fifth factor is sensor size, or the total area of the light sensitive medium in the camera. Now the math, or to calculate the depth of field, is quite complicated, because you have to take into account each of those factors. To simplify it, you should really look at the absolute aperture, which means the physical diameter of the opening in the lens. Absolute aperture, or physical aperture, is calculated simply by dividing the focal length into the f number. A 50 millimeter lens shot at f5 will have a physical aperture of 10 millimeters, which is simply 50 divided by 5, and so on. By using the physical aperture, you can really neglect 3 of the factors, which are focal length, the f number, and sensor size, because the physical aperture will give a good estimation of the propensity for blur, regardless of focal length, f number, and sensor size. You see, 50 millimeter shot at f5 will have a similar propensity for out of focus blur on a full frame sensor and on an APS-C sensor and on a phone camera. Of course, distance is still an important variable in predicting the propensity for blur. The closest you are to your subject, the more blur you will get in your background. The further the background is positioned from your subject, the more blur you will see in your background. Now, as I discussed in a previous video, there are really three levels of sharpness in photography. The first is acceptably sharp, which is what is inside the depth of field, which appears sharp generally, unless you really enlarge the image and look at it close up. The second category of sharpness is things that do not look quite sharp, but they are still recognizable and show a significant amount of detail. The third category of sharpness is distinctly unsharp, where everything appears blurry, and you cannot really discern any amount of significant detail. Portrait photographers are usually after the third type of sharpness in their backgrounds, because they don't want anything to distract from their main subject. But in other genres of photography, you either want everything sharp, like in landscape or architectural photography, or you want objects to look slightly out of focus, but to still be a part of the image, so to give your subject a wider context. And for that you want most of the image to be in the second category of sharpness, where they are not quite in focus, but still recognizable. This usually gives me a good separation in documentary photography. I usually shoot my subjects from a distance of 1 to 2 meters with a wider than normal lens. And I'm finding that the physical aperture that gives me the best background separation is about 20 millimeters. Now, with normal to long lenses, it is not a problem to achieve that, because at 40 millimeters you need an f2 aperture to achieve this. At 50 millimeter an aperture of f2.5, and at longer focal lengths like 80 millimeters you need f4, which a lot of lenses can give you, a lot of prime lenses anyway. Now for wider apertures you need quite a fast lens for that. and 35 millimeters you need to use f1.8, and 28 millimeters you need f1.4, which is why I use a full frame camera. I used to shoot with 4/3 and micro 4/3 cameras, but they never allowed me to get a desirable background separation with wider focal lengths. That was the main reason why I stopped using micro 4/3 cameras for documentary photography. Noise, dynamic range were not a problem for me with a smaller sensor, but I just couldn't get a separation of sharpness with wider apertures. And since my preference for focal length has been shifting from normal to wide, I really needed a sensor size that could give me that separation, and I slowly shifted to full frame. Now at the typical distances I shoot for my dirty photography or documentary photography with wider lenses, I need, as I said, about 20 millimeter physical aperture. But that is true not only for wide lenses, but also for longer focal lengths. I find that even at 75 millimeters, the right propensity for blur is achieved at about f4, which is not exactly what most portrait photographers use. The rule of thumb for physical apertures is up to about 10 millimeters. You will get a largely sharp image with a very long depth of field. And at 30 or 35 millimeters and beyond, you will get a thin depth of field where a lot of your background will appear very blurry without any detail. It's a matter of preference. To me, something in between is about ideal for the type of photography I do, but might be different for you. Landscape photographers will choose a very small physical aperture, something like 5 millimeters, and wildlife portrait photographers will prefer a larger physical aperture, something like 35 to 40 millimeters, that will throw everything in front and behind the subject into oblivion. There will be nothing recognizable there, just stains of light or color. My issue is that in the low light conditions I shoot in, I can't really choose my apertures according to the physical aperture. I mean, to get the right shutter speeds I'm after, I need to really open up the aperture. I can't really shoot at anything more stop down than f2. Maybe even f1.4, depending on the light conditions. So I tend to prefer wider focal lengths that can give me enough sharpness in the background, even at smaller f numbers. Another important issue in documentary or dirty photography is shutter speed. I will dedicate the next video in this series for a discussion about that. So until then, goodbye.